Wow, cool. And the results of the presidential election are, oh wait, sorry. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to DisrupTV. You're in the green room. I thought we'd have a little fun today. We're gonna do some quick introductions before we go live. We're gonna start with Daphne and then we're gonna work our way to Aron. So welcome. I'm Ray Wang with Constellation Research, co-founder of DisrupTV. I'm here with my awesome co-host and our producer, Elf Froze, and our awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. Vala.
Hi everyone, Vala dialing in from Boston.
Excellent. Daphne.
Hi.
Yeah.
What's up?
Well, where are you calling in from and what are we talking about today?
Yeah, I'm calling in from the sunny city of Miami Beach, Florida. And I am going to be talking to you guys about not hurricanes or anything like that, but about what's happening on board of directors. I serve on several public boards. We talk a little about that, talk about diversity, talk about digital, talk about how do you use crisis as a catalyst for innovation and change.
Excellent. Awesome. Craig, where are you calling in from and what are you talking about today?
Yeah, well, hi. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm calling in from Denver, Colorado. As you can tell from the accent, born and bred here in Denver.
I say Colorado. I say Colorado, so I know you're native.
So yeah, I'm obviously from Australia originally, and today I'm talking about SugarCRM and CX more broadly, and an exciting acquisition that we've done very recently.
Very, very cool. And then Aron.
Hi, Ray. How are you? Thanks for having me on. I'm going to talk about UKG, the Ultimate Kronos Group, and about how we've merged two remarkable companies, Ultimate Software and Kronos, in the middle of a pandemic, believe it or not. 12,800 people around the world working from home and keeping the engine marching forward.
We got our special co-host, Holger Mueller. Where are you dialing in from?
Well, from my home place, right on native California, from San Diego.
Now we're talking accents here. All right, very, very cool. We're going to start the show. All yours, Elle. What do we do?
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, Holger, myself, and our distinguished guest your questions live using hashtag DisrupTV. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He is the best-selling author of Disrupting Digital Business, and his new book is coming out next year, Breaking News. He's often featured on Bloomberg News, Fox Business. He's everywhere. And in my humble opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot, Vala. Vala's my awesome co-host. As you know, he's one of the top people to follow on Twitter. If you're CEO, CIO, CFO, even if you're a human on this planet, people look to Vala for inspiration and innovation. Definitely catch him. He's also an author himself, and we're seeing him in tons of keynotes everywhere. So thanks for being on the show. And then, of course, we've got our special co-host, Holger Mueller. He's our vice president and principal analyst, covering a whole bunch of areas, including one of the topics today on human capital management, along with enterprise acceleration and the cloud. But before we begin, I want to thank our sponsors, Robots and Pencils. If you're looking for great development, especially in digital and mobile development, they're one of the top people to look at. So definitely take a look at them, and thank you for your sponsorship. All right, so let's start the show.
It's an honor and a privilege for us. Our first guest, Aron Ain, CEO of UKG, Ultimate Kronos Group. Aron fiercely contends that there is a direct link between employee engagement, customer satisfaction, and business success. And he has proof, and frankly, I agree with him 100%. When he became CEO of Kronos in 2005, Aron and team put a laser focus on employee engagement as a growth strategy and saw worldwide employee engagement score skyrocket as revenue nearly tripled to go beyond $1.5 billion. In April 2020, Kronos and Ultimate Software Group merged to become UKG. And Aron was tapped to be the CEO and chairman of the combined company with over 12,000 employees and $3 billion in revenue. As a multi-year recipient of Glassdoor's top CEO distinction, Aron believes anything is possible when people are inspired, and that great management is the single largest component that adds to shareholder value and company performance. Aron's the author of Work Inspired, How to Build an Organization Where Everyone Loves to Work. Boy, do we need that now. Everybody read the book. You can follow Aron on Twitter at AARONAIN. Welcome, Aron, to DisrupTV.
Thanks, Vala. How are you? Good to be here.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hey, thanks for being on the show as well. I'm going to give Holger the first question, and we're just going to switch on and off. Holger, go ahead.
Hey, Aron, good to see you. Great to be there. And I think it's fascinating. I'm following you guys since 7+ years, how you guys have evolved from the specialist in workforce management, the Switzerland, everybody partners with Kronos, and then do a lot of work on what Vala said before on employee engagement, other things. I mean, you've moved into a great headquarter, the former Xerox building. I would love to hear how like space and place changes the future of work of your employees. And you've done a number of leadership things. Like I want to hear from you. When did you get rid of your office and things like that? So would love to hear more from you.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting 6-7 months since we announced the merger on February 20th. The world seemed just perfect. And then between February 20th, when we closed on the merger of Ultimate Software and Kronos, on April 1st, a lot changed. And so it's taken all of the power of what you talked about creating a great place to work to make this all work. It's two remarkable companies that came together in the form of Kronos and Ultimate. And for example, in the Great Places to Work for All in Fortune magazine that rates the best places to work in its 23-year history of doing the rankings, there's only been one time ever that two top 100 companies to work for have merged, and that was this year with Kronos and Ultimate. So we've been merging two companies with remarkable cultures, but different cultures into one, while we've all been working from home and not being able to be together to do all the things you'd normally do when you're merging organizations. And in fact, our offices around the world are empty today. And we're still doing product development, still doing implementation, still selling the product, still marketing away. We've just shifted to a new model that's virtual, all in, all the time. At the same time, working hard to protect our employees, and that's been my #1 priority.
Yeah. When we think about this, right, I mean, going way back to like February, I mean, that's a long time, right? And this is a merger of equals that you guys were talking about, getting the best of both worlds. How's that playing out, right? I mean, how are customers viewing this?
Yeah, so far so good with customers, getting really good feedback. I'm participating with a lot of customers. Look, Ultimate Software had an enviable reputation and position in the market as a leader in HCM, and Kronos similarly in workforce management, and the applications were siblings to each other. And so bringing them together really simplifies how our customers will think about it in that way. And we had a lot of overlap customers in terms of number of units, 400, 500, 600, but a very small number who were shared customers in terms of the number of actual customers that both organizations had. So it's opened up opportunities for our joint customers now to consider each other's products, or these products of UKG, for those Kronos Workforce Management customers, legacy ones, to say, oh, should I look and consider the UltiPro platform, and vice versa for the Kronos Workforce Management platform. And so far so good. I've done a lot of work on integrational work, a lot more to do. Really, the sky's the limit.
Actually, Aron, you're like one of the biggest high-tech employers on the East Coast now. Think about it, between Boston and South Florida. I mean, it's a huge talent pool.
Is that true?
It's pretty big.
12,000. That's a big number. That's a big number. Aron, before I joined Salesforce, I was a CMO of a public company, but prior to that, I was a CMO of a private company, about 400 million in annual revenue, and a competitor about 300 million, so equal size. We merged, so we doubled overnight, and we went from being private to becoming a public company. And I was tasked to rebrand the company as the CMO of the new entity. Yeah. And so, two great cultures, but different cultures, two vision that were different, mission, and obviously two CEOs. And ultimately, there was a lot of merger of equal size. Your tagline, our purpose is people. I love it. Talk about this whole branding exercise of two equals. And I know I went through it. This is not easy work. It's fulfilling work. It's joyful work, but it's not easy work. Tell us about branding this new entity and going to two incredible companies uniting where 1 + 1 = 3.
Okay, so really good question. Thank you for that. So despite a lot of pressure and encouragement to pick a name as soon as we merged, I really didn't want to do that because I wanted to slow down a little bit and catch our breath about what was the right thing to do. And I'm glad we did that. And so we created a team of people mainly within the marketing and the creative groups to understand how to think about it. We hired a world-class third-party branding company to help us think about it as well. And we interviewed customers, interviewed employees, interviewed analysts, interviewed the world basically to say when they heard the name Kronos, what did they think about? And they heard the name Ultimate, what did they think about? And then we sat down and we thought about what we wanted our mission to be. We wanted to honor and not forget who we were, Kronos and Ultimate. We wanted to understand that it had a name and a brand in the marketplace, but we wanted to do something different. We didn't want it to be Ultimate Kronos or Kronos Ultimate, and we didn't want to pick a name that nobody had ever heard of per se. So at the end of the day, we settled on UKG, Ultimate Kronos Group. Over time, we hope that Ultimate Kronos Group will be less talked about and UKG will be talked about. And then we also thought long and hard about the logo and the colors because they had an impact. And then we had to match it up with our purpose is people, because for us, everything starts with the people. Everything starts with the people. And so it sent a clear message that that's what our purpose is. And it's meant to cover dimensions of our purpose is people for the people who work for us. It's for the people who work for us and their families. It's for the people who work at our customers. It's for the partners who we support. So it's really meant to be very frontal about that. And it's how I live my life every day. But it was an interesting process like you described. And in the end, our employees have just loved the new name and they love the new logo and they love the colors. And it all goes together. Who would imagine that it's more than just the name? And it's more than just the tagline, and it's more than just the logo, and it's more than just the colors. It's all of it together.
Sure, you're revealing your culture and you're revealing your passion for people, and well done, really well done.
Thank you.
Hey, Aron, I mean, at the end of the day, you're a software company, so, right? And you've done something truly remarkable, which I've not seen in the software enterprise history ever, and I'm not sure we're going to see that, right? You managed to build the next generation of your product in complete secret, without announcing it, Vala. Listen to how that happened, because there's so many announcements of people announcing something and they're never delivering, right? You did not announce it until you were at functional parity and had customers live, right? That's like unique, unheard of. Can you maybe share a little bit how you did that and what benefit that gives to end users, customers?
Yeah, that's
using
very rare.
the new product?
Everybody forward sells, so.
Well, look, I saw all the thank you for the question, by the way. I saw a lot of companies through my career that did what you described. They talked about it before it was released. And, we're a humble, thoughtful New England company that doesn't always walk around with our chest out, but kind of says, let's prove who we are before we start talking about how great we are. So we decided to take an approach to do it quietly with this new platform. And the platform's mission really was, as people know, is to put ourselves out of business, but do it to ourselves. And because we were thinking someone might try to do it to us. And so my mission through this process, this 3-year process of where we spent $150 million quietly, and we had 600 full-time people working on it quietly with design partners and customers.
How do you have 600 people work on it quietly?
We just didn't talk about it. So our employees knew what we were doing.
Right? You went to physical separation.
In the beginning, we did. For the first year, we put people 20 miles away. We took our best and brightest and had them go work on it. And we also brought new people in from the outside because we didn't want people to be distracted. We wanted them to think like they were doing a startup. So no telephones, no offices. Use your cell phone. That's what startups do. And share desks. That's what startups do. And rented leased offices that someone else was subleasing to us. And so it really was young and hungry and exciting from that point of view. And it's been an unbelievable success, exceeding my expectations here. And we haven't had it out that long. We have hundreds of customers live and existing customers migrating to it, net new customers buying it. And so I think we've really hit a seam with it, and I'm proud of what we've done. And most importantly, I'm proud of how we did it. So we didn't need to brag about it until we had something to brag about. And we didn't need to talk about it until we had something to talk about.
Truly remarkable, because achieving functional equivalency, right? I know Ron Wall, who used to be at Oracle, where Ray and me used to be, was one of your advisors, and said one of the lessons learned of the whole fusion story was functional equivalency, right? And then going to a separate location with, if I remember right, 1/3 Cronites, as you call themselves, 1/3 fresh out of UMass Lowell, I guess now, and one third from the industry. And what's so powerful is the challenger model, right? Build something which the competition could do to blow us out of the water, right? So, and you were the only contact for a while. Yeah.
I was worried.
That is so impressive.
I was watching what other companies were doing in the market, and I watched how they were putting really successful other companies at risk. Look at Salesforce.com, what it did, right, Vala, and how it put whoever were the leaders there at risk, and they were well-known, established companies. I didn't want someone to do that to us, so I was worried about that. And part of that was a function of me starting at Kronos when it was a startup. I'm not a founder, and the people who were the giants in our industry didn't pay attention to us, and look what we did to them. So I'm always worried about that, and I always want to pay attention to everyone.
I love that. I think all successful leaders have that healthy sense of paranoia, as Andy Grove of Intel said, on a cover of Time magazine in 1986. I subscribe to that. And Aron, you wrote a book, Work Inspired, creating an environment where people love their work. And you wrote that in 2018. And so many of those lessons are applicable now. But given this seismic event, the pandemic, and the fact that we overnight went to a decentralized digital-only work environment, are there lessons? Is there a need to update your book as a result of pandemic, or are there lessons in your book that are even more important in today's world of uncertainty?
Thank you for that. I think it's the latter, quite frankly. I think the lessons are more important. Look, I believe trust is the magic glue that holds together personal and professional relationships. There's a whole chapter on trust. When I ask people, they say, I love the book. I say, which chapter did you like the best? They say that chapter on trust. I love that chapter on trust. And they love it because nobody talks about it enough and nobody practices it enough. We get so much done today because I trust the people who work for us. I trust them to get their work done at home. I start all relationships by trusting people. People have to unearn my trust. I don't start by telling people that they have to earn my trust. And so we can do so much more. It liberates me as a manager. It liberates the people who work for me on the team because I trust them and they know that I trust them. And so that's why we've been able to work the way we have, because we trust each other and we can do that. And then we over communicate. I think communications is critically important. And so I'm doing videos. I just did my weekly video right before this to all 12,800 people, just 7-8 minutes, one take. Sometimes I screw up, I fall down, I get up, I dust myself off, but I don't do it again. I keep recording because I tell the team that life only has one take. So why should my videos have more than one take? And so I think we try to be honest and open and
That's
authentic.
The quote of the day.
And so I think,
Ray, the quote of the day is you have to unearn my trust. That was such a beautiful statement. No, really, it's such a massive distinction about, seeing the good in people and earning trust by giving it. That was the quote of the day. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Aron.
Right. So remember, when I say that, the most important part about starting relationships by trusting people is how it liberates us. If we don't trust people, we're looking over their shoulder all the time, then we're spending all this time looking over their shoulder. So it's just not trusting the person on the other end. It's important for us as leaders to extend our trust so we can be liberated to do what we want to do. The whole point, we can't do what we did with that team 20 miles away unless I trust them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Trust them.
And
trust them. So I tell people all the time, I trust you.
I love that.
I just regret I didn't give you guys a harder time when I was saying you have 800 developers and that's all that you get out of there. You either are building something in secret which you wear, or you have the lowest developer productivity ever, right? And every year I beat you up at Kronos Works and you guys are just smiling. So no, we're delivering the building. So
no, I would tell you.
Good job keeping the facade.
I would say you're right. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. You know what I said to you about trust before and honesty.
You got to trust the analyst a little bit.
I do.
But I think trust is a great point, Aron, because it's even more important in software, right? If I buy a car, I can test drive it. If I buy a TV, I can return it after 30 days, right? Those industries trust is important for everybody, but they need less trust than software, which you cannot see. Right? In the software as a service world, it's also a journey. I can see and test drive and select what it is today, but I know it needs to evolve. The best practices are changing. I need to make it a trusting partner who will take me on the journey to get the next generation best practices. So I think it's even more important within the customer relationship, and it only works if the employee relationship is right.
It goes everywhere, Holger. I tell people all the time, it's the magic glue that holds together personal and professional relationships. And if more people would practice it, the world would be a better place. We'd all be a little bit more relaxed. And I can go on and on about it.
No. Hey, real quick, tell us what's happening at UKG Works. Give us a sneak preview, and then we got to pull out.
Yep, thank you. So UKG Works is the replacement for Kronos Works, the multi-thousand employee user conference every year. So we're going to do it virtually. First time we've done one this big like this. And we're excited to go share the vision and the strategy of what UKG is all about. Certainly focused on our products, but just not focused on our products, focused on our services and our strategy and how we're thinking about the future. And the one thing I'll miss, as you've been with me at Kronos Works before, I spend so much time with our customers and try to listen and learn from them. So we got to try to see how we can also get really good feedback. But I'm excited to see how it goes. I've talked to a lot of other companies that have delivered their conferences virtually. So I'm all in to see how it can be. And we're not going to, surrender anything. No apologies. We're going to make it great.
No, we're getting a lot of great comments on Twitter, on social media. As you see, we're popping them up. Aron, you're a class act. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, people can catch you on Twitter. We're here with Aron Ain, at ARONAIN. And of course, he's the chairman and CEO of Ultimate Kronos Group, UKG. So, hey,
all right.
Thanks a lot for being on the show. Happy Friday.
Aron.
Go UKG. Everybody vote this year, please. Do that important year.
Yes. Thank you, Aron.
Okay, guys, thank you. Be safe. Take care of your families.
Thank you so much. What a great CEO. In fact, we only invite great CEOs to DisrupTV, and our next guest is no exception in terms of roster of great CEOs that have appeared on Disrupt. Craig Charlton, CEO of SugarCRM. As CEO, Craig leads all facets of the SugarCRM business, from setting visions, strategy direction, to making the company execute in the best possible way at every level. Craig has been building and running high growth businesses for 25 years. Before joining SugarCRM, he was CEO of OilDex, a financial automation software and service provider, where he drove growth and oversaw the company's acquisition by Drilling Info. Craig also served as CEO of Abila, the financial and CRM provider operating in association with nonprofits in the government space. Abila, which was acquired by Community Brands, grew its revenue threefold and transformed its revenues base to a subscription-based SaaS model in a 3-year period. You can follow all the work of SugarCRM at SugarCRM. Welcome, Craig, to DisrupTV.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, you just came on board, just recently, if you think about it. Right, about a year ago, and so a year and a half.
Yeah.
So what drew you to Sugar? The company was like legendary. I live in Cupertino, just to give you a kind of context. So I could walk to your offices if I need to. So what drew you to Sugar? So were you a customer or?
No, I wasn't. In fact, I'd competed against Sugar probably 10 years ago, and I actually won at the time. But I'd finished my last CEO role, and the role of Sugar was up for grabs. So I was evaluating that versus a multitude of others. But I have spent sort of 30 years directly and indirectly associated with CRM, from very early contact management systems through clientele, which, Ray, I know you would know from the very old Epicor days, a great product in its time. I then was CEO of Abila, which is CRM for association management. And my last 3 roles, I've actually been a user of our biggest competitor in the space. I won't mention the name, but the gorilla in the space. And, I must admit, my view of CRM has been that there have been these historic fundamental flaws in every CRM system I've been involved in. And I used to come home to my wife and just say, it's so frustrating, the things that I can't get done. And, numerous different flaws, but one of the biggest ones that used to just frustrate me no end was the lack of time awareness in CRM applications. And it's been an Achilles heel of CRM forever. And most CRM systems are great at telling you the state of the nation right this second, but they don't provide any sort of, historical view. So, when I was evaluating Sugar versus some other opportunities, I went and spent time with Rich Green and the CTO and the product team. And I sort of said to them, look, I've got a view of CRM. What are you guys working on? What's the future? What's the vision? And I must admit, it was incredibly exciting. It was like light bulbs going off, all the different things they were mentioning. And they were really solving a lot of these historic issues, particularly around the time awareness piece and some other areas as well. So I got excited. I mean, I got really excited. Don't tell my bosses, but I probably would have stepped up and done the role for nothing at that point in time. Our mission is for Sugar to right the wrongs of decades of CRM systems. So very exciting times.
That's incredible. I don't normally wear a suit and tie for DisrupTV, but a couple of hours ago, I delivered the closing keynote at the first government-sponsored AI summit in India called Raise 2020, where the Prime Minister Modi, launched the event. And the entire week, there was hundreds of speakers representing government, business, technology leaders talking about the importance of artificial intelligence and how it will significantly shape the future. And, you just had a significant acquisition in the AI space. Can you share your vision in terms of the importance of artificial intelligence in the CRM space, and then specifically talk about your recent acquisition?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. We have lots of businesses, as you can imagine, come across our desk, and they all surprisingly look really good on paper. And we had this Node acquisition come across, and it was an area of the business which we'd been working on. So we announced mid last year, our time-aware CX vision. And to date, we've been able to, like a DVR, rewind history, pick up anomalies and correlations and predict what's going to happen. But the future piece was sort of the missing piece, giving our customers that crystal ball. So when Node came across the desk, we looked at it and said, well, if these guys can actually do what they say they can do, this is a pretty exciting opportunity. So we're trying to figure out, how do we test them? What we ended up doing is, and quite unfair, but we gave them our internal CRM data from 6 months ago and said, tell us what's going to happen.
Wow.
Right?
That's a good test. That's a good test.
Tell us the future. Tell us the future.
Exactly. And we called it internally the ultimate Node challenge. And we gave them the grand total of 24 hours. They had no knowledge of the Sugar data set. And we agreed 3 different use cases. One was propensity for a marketing qualified lead to become sales qualified, a sales qualified lead to be won. And then the other one, which they were very well known for, was the likelihood of customers attriting. And they came back in 24 hours. We obviously had the ability to go through and audit the results because we knew what happened. And it was astounding, absolutely astounding. So we had predictability rates in the high 80s and early 90s across all 3 of those particular use cases. So at that point in time, I sat up straight and said, this is the missing piece of the puzzle. The ability to provide that future predictability for business it's absolutely paramount. And what was very different about Node, and you guys would know this, but one of the fundamental flaws in CRM systems is the data is typically not 100% accurate, but it's very, very lacking in terms of completeness. What Node brings is this deep learning capability, but combined with this externally curated data to really complement and supplement the incomplete CRM data. And that's how they manage to get these ridiculously high levels of prediction without even knowing CRM. So, every company I've run, I keep saying to my people, performance is important, but predictability is almost important. It's the companies that get both of those things right that are an order of magnitude in terms of shareholder value versus those who just get performance right. So the ability to be able to provide answers to questions that customers are asking, like the questions I used to ask and was frustrated I couldn't get answers to, but also providing answers to questions they haven't asked, correlations, predictions deep in the data that they haven't actually asked about. And then, importantly, providing a view of the future is one thing, then be able to guide them in terms of, and based on this, you should do X. So it's that next best action. It's the predictive selling. It's the guided selling. You know, we firmly believe this is going to give our customers an unfair advantage over their competitors. And I can tell you, nothing makes me more excited than that.
That's good.
No, we're definitely seeing these shifts in the market in terms of what customers are looking for. We're definitely seeing some shifts in terms of the level of AI and automation that's out there. And customers are definitely thinking, hey, what can I do, right? You know, what can sales and marketing get a boost from AI? And, you know, what do you think are some of the biggest spots that customers are going to start with?
Well, we got a shopping list. I mean, fortunately, Node's been around for 6 years, so it's a proven, powerful, cloud-based deep learning model with this combination of the externally curated data as well as using your own internal system data. So the models that they built have just shown an incredible level of predictability. We've looked at it and said, well, what are the most compelling areas? Obviously, ICP type questions and identifying potentially segments that you're not currently focusing on that have a higher propensity to buy. Obviously giving, really accurate lead scoring algorithms as well as forecasting algorithms and, customer attrition models and forecasting trending models. So we're working on all of these now in conjunction with some early stage customers. And the beauty, as I said, is Node's done this before. So we bought a proven company, and it enables us to really focus on the most compelling opportunities, the ones that are going to give our customers, the most bang for their buck. And sometimes it's not predicting the opportunities that will close, it's predicting the opportunities that won't close. And interestingly, in the model that we gave to Node, they had a prediction accuracy of 91% of the deals that we should stop wasting our time on. And that, if you can, I know 91%, certainly wasn't expecting that. And so to be able to do that and stop wasting time on all of this noise and be able to double down on the opportunities where we had a really good fit and there was a higher propensity to buy, I mean, that's gold in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always judge, a company's digital transformation journey in terms of their data maturity model, going from descriptive to diagnostic to predictive to ultimately prescriptive use of analytics, where once you have a prediction, you create workflows where you are prescribing to your sales, services, commerce, marketing, what they should be doing now in real time to make those forecasts come to fruition, like sales forecasting or scoring leads to opportunities to close one business. So I think it's incredibly important to have that maturity to go all the way to prescriptive and then measuring service level conformance to whatever prescribed actions are governing your workforce. Take us to the future of CRM. What does CRM look like 5 years from now? 3, 5? I won't ask for more than that because it's hard to be a futurist. But given the fusion of machine learning, digital assistants powered by NLP and voice, what does a CRM experience feel like 5 years from now? And how do you compete against, like you said, some of the giants that are there? I happen to work for one of them. How do you set yourself apart in this highly competitive space?
So one of the things you're going to be hearing a lot more about from Sugar is this concept of high definition CX. Because the unfortunate reality is most companies have a decidedly low fidelity view of their customers, of their business, of their marketplaces. And we believe, the combination of Sugar and Node, as well as our underlying differentiated pillars, enable us to deliver an incredibly high definition, high resolution picture of customers. And now more than ever, that's incredibly important. So what underpins our high definition CX are 4 main pillars that we've been, talking about. The time aware CX platform, which I've already spoken about, no touch information management. And one of the banes of existence in terms of CRM applications, if you're in the marketing team, you either use it or you're fired. If you're in the service team, you either use it or you're fired. In Salesforce automation, salespeople are cunning. They're very, very smart. If you don't deliver value that is far more, far higher than the effort that's required, they'll just stop using the application. And it's the bane of every CRM vendor is how do we get that adoption? So, we have this concept of data entry as a last resort. We want to be providing salespeople with maximum amount of benefit for virtually no effort. And because they are smart, then they embrace the system. Sure. That, as well as the pace at which we're innovating. And we made a decision a few years back to literally attach our little red wagon to AWS and not just host in AWS, which a lot of our competitors do. We fundamentally use every part of the platform really, really deep. I mean, we use 36 different individual services. And I don't want to call it this, but it's the boring stuff that customers want to know exists. But all they care about is CX innovation. So our ability to innovate far more quickly, because we're not worried about the scalability and the performance and the search and all of these other things, where we can use an amazing partner like AWS. That combined, Sugar's always been the much loved CX vendor. You look at Forbes Most Trusted, you look at softwareevaluation.com, you look at the G2 crowd. Sugar's always up in the far right, and the mega vendors are always the sort of despised ones, unfortunately for you.
We usually spend a lot of time trying to think about where that future can take us, right? And when we think about where clients are headed, what customers are trying to do with CRM, what couldn't they do 5 years ago in CRM that they can do today? Let's think about it from that perspective, because the show is really not about, it's really not about the companies themselves that are, out there. It's really about what we can do to help our customers.
So for me, the things, I look back in my roles and the areas of frustration that I had that I couldn't get answers to, like, simple things like, give me the predictability of a salesperson. And everyone focuses on performance of a salesperson. That's important, but you need to have a time-aware view, because some salespeople are sandbaggers, and some people have happy years, and some are incredibly erratic, and some really know their business. And
I would never forecast if I was a sales guy until I had the deal. Like, would you? I mean,
well, you have to, Ray, or you don't have a job. I mean, that's the problem, right? So
I know.
Some of those things, they require this time-aware CX piece, and it's something that has just historically been missing from all CRM applications that I've seen. So that gives us the fuel to drive the AI engine to give us unprecedented level of predictability. And if you've got that predictability, you can change course very quickly. And if you have insight into what's going to happen in terms of bankable predictions, you can change course. And ultimately, when the pace of business is just so frenetic, being able to change course quicker than your competitors, being able to highlight issues that you can remediate far more quickly, being able to highlight opportunities that you can take advantage of before someone else does. I mean, that in essence, for me, that crystal ball is something that I've always wanted, and I think it's becoming a reality. And the pace at which that's going to become more of a reality, I think, is pretty exciting for businesses.
You're right. We're going to hear a lot about that, this notion of decision velocity, right? Yeah. Where machines can make decisions 100 times per second and humans can make 1 per second maybe, and then it's going to take them 4 weeks to get past management community. I mean, that's massive asymmetry, right? In terms of getting to those decisions and getting to predictions. So.
Yeah, this is my final question. Since the pandemic, since the beginning of this calendar year, what is your observation in terms of which line of business, sales, service, marketing, commerce, IT, who is on the forefront of CRM adoption, CRM advocacy? Which persona in business is really betting their company's future on advanced capabilities and value that they can get from a CRM platform?
It's a difficult trade-off, really. I think, in the current climate with COVID just causing so much disruption across the globe in terms of business models, I think it impacts everyone. I mean, from a marketing perspective, there's a dearth of opportunities out there. How do you find opportunities in places that you couldn't previously? I think that's where AI has a really, really big impact. From a salesperson's perspective, providing that prescriptive or guided selling. A couple of people have said to me, not from Sugar, but externally, said, you picked a bad time to buy a predictability engine during COVID. But the interesting thing,
it's the best time to do reset.
It's actually the opposite, because yes, the first couple of weeks of COVID, we couldn't have predicted what happened. A month in, when you've got iterating models that are constantly iterating, 2 weeks can actually provide a treasure trove of information to help you predict what you're going to do through the remainder of COVID, and hopefully as we accelerate out of COVID. So for me, it's the absolute best time to be buying a tool like this, albeit, history doesn't look like it does today. The last couple of weeks of history certainly do. So, it can really help guide and advise people.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
we're here with Craig Charlton, CEO of SugarCRM, always passionate, always. Always a CRM supporter down the line. So thank you so much for being on the show. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
You're terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love CRM, world of CRM. It's our privilege. This is what Ray and I call the cleanup hitter spot, where we bring the best and brightest and anticipate a grand slam. And it's our privilege to have Daphne E. Jones, independent board member, executive coach, and keynote speaker, as our final guest. Daphne is an accomplished and seasoned executive with extensive experience using digital technologies strategically, entrepreneurially, and globally within multiple multinational corporations. Daphne has over 30 years of experience. She started when she was 5. In general management, executive level roles at IBM, Johnson & Johnson, these small companies.
Small companies, no one has ever heard of them, so
Hospira, which is now Pfizer, and GE, General Electric. During her tenure at GE, Daphne served as Senior Vice President of Future of Work, Senior Vice President and CIO for Product Engineering, Imaging and Ultrasound, and as Senior Executive and CIO for Global Services. All of these comprise a $13 billion segment within GE's healthcare. Wow. Daphne served on the board of directors, serves on multiple board of directors, and is regarded as an authority on preparing and marketing for corporate board services. Daphne was named one of Illinois' most powerful and influential women by the National Diversity Council and Premier 100 CIO for Computer World. You can follow Daphne on Twitter at DAPHNE, then capital E, Jones, Jones. Welcome, Daphne.
Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's my privilege to be here.
Thank you.
Oh, no, it's ours to host you here. It's awesome to have you here. We're talking about, our first topic is really talking about diversity on boards. And as you know, I'm in the state of California. And in California, we've actually passed a law starting next year that, boards have to have different racial representation in terms of diversity, as well as some other factors. And it's picking up, you see in different areas. But why is it so important? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with diversity in boards? You've sat there at the board level trying to understand the different issues, representing the different stakeholders and shareholders. What's driving this?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I get asked that from time to time. And I look at it that diversity on boards helps solve what I'll call the mystery of the market, providing perspective and relevance. If you remember that movie with Dennis Quaid and Forrest Whitaker, it's called The Vantage Point. And it was about an assassination attempt on a U.S. president and was seen from various vantage points of different people, right? And every person or each person saw something different, and they all probably believed that their vantage point was the right vantage point. But it took all of them coming together, if you will, for the FBI and the Secret Service to be able to solve the mystery of who actually did it. So to me, diversity in the boards is sort of like that. The market is out there. Current customers are out there, potential customers are out there, new solutions, ideas are out there. And because the ideas and the issues are so much more diverse today than they were before, if you don't take advantage of the various vantage points of the different talent that's out there on boards, then you will not be able to solve the mystery of how do you drive accelerated growth, how do you drive customer loyalty, how do you drive higher share. And so cybersecurity, innovation, companies are worried about, are they going to trip their debt covenant, social injustice, climate change, innovation, you name it. Being a homogeneous board is not going to be a competitive advantage anymore. And those folks that have the right and relevant skills, Ray, are going to help the companies sift through the information with the insights and to drive success. So as a board member, I help set the strategy. I help drive, capital allocation. We approve the compensation architecture. And I really believe that if you have a diverse board, and if you believe in the things that we just talked about, diverse issues require, more diversity of thought, then you're going to have a diverse leadership team. And then if you have a diverse leadership team, you'll likely will have a diverse company, and then you win. And that's sort of what I think it's all about.
Makes total sense. Daphne, I was looking at your Twitter feed, and you had this awesome video sharing your experience where a group of people from a vendor, I'm assuming, come to your offices and they're waiting, and you say, how can I help you? And they're, well, we're here to meet with the CIO and the technology leader. And you're like, well, hi, that's me. Hello. And I guess there was an element of surprise because for whatever reason, they didn't anticipate that you would be the CIO and head of technology. Talk to us about the struggles of, the biases or the blind spots that we have when we sometimes typecast and not recognize the importance of diversity and inclusion, which you lived through. That was a very powerful story, a personal story that you shared on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a great question. And then I wish it only started then when I was at SPV. I was told by my high school counselor, I was doing pretty good in school. I thought I was pretty smart. My husband calls me a smart aleck, but I thought I was smarter than that. And, they told me, the high school counselor, when I said to him, I'd like to go to college. What do I have to work on? How do I go about doing that? And he says, Daphne, you're a Black girl. Black girls don't go to college. They go and become secretary.
Oh my God, really?
And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I actually went to secretarial college, which lasted about 4 weeks. And I became a secretary at Women's Day magazine. Now, I obviously didn't stay there because, after a lot of mistakes I made and what have you, I said, you know what, I shouldn't be a secretary. I should have a secretary. And so it's about having a vision for yourself for the future. And it's about understanding that, and I had to learn this, that it's not a personal thing. You got to look at it as a business problem. And if you look at things as a business problem, then you kind of see through it. I was a Black woman in STEM, right, which is primarily a white-dominated, male-dominated industry, if you will, and had to live through that. But you get through that by being the best, being the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and whatever you set yourself out to do. But it's also about your image, and it's your exposure. So who knows you? Who do you know? Who do you look at as a mentor, as a role model, or as a sponsor? And when people get to know you as an individual, I think they get to see that there's more to the story than what you bring in terms of your physical dimension. So looking at things as a business issue, not a personal issue, and then performing really well, but also understanding who you need to surround yourself with from a leadership standpoint to be known and recognized.
That's terrific. Ray, go ahead.
Yeah, no, let's go deep on what's happening in boards, right? This is one of the biggest challenges we face, especially advising companies, their leaders, is really understanding digital inside boards. It's as if the boardroom is like antiquated, right? In almost every one of the Fortune 500s, they can't think digital monetization. They don't understand digital business strategies. And how are you helping them do that? Because this is one of the biggest concerns for companies as they're aging out.
Yeah, I think, first, I'm a member of a group called the Digital Directors Network, and we are looking to drive more digital directors in the boardroom. And just having one is great.
Bob Zukas. Bob Zukas is everywhere.
Bob is, my God, yes, Bob Zukas. So I'm one of the founding members of DDN. And so we're really trying to turn this around and drive it. It's not just having one or having two. If we could have three, that would be great. But I think companies, when you look at the crisis with the COVID, things like e-commerce grew 10 years in just 3 months. The trajectory for e-commerce was on a linear slope, but then all of a sudden in February, it went like this, straight up, right? And so companies are realizing that without digital, they're not going to win or survive. So I first, it starts with the digital mindset. If you have a digital mindset, and companies are really striving to do that. And cyber is the other part that they are recognizing that digital is really offense and you also got to play defense, right? So with cyber, you're certainly playing defense. And even with cyber, you can play offense by making sure that the products that you sell and distribute, have not been tampered with and whatnot. But still,
that's the only way to play offense without going to jail. But yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, counterfeit stuff. I mean, there's things that happen that if you could play a good offensive game with technology, you'll be good. And so my goal is to help my companies look at digital, but people say, well, who really drove digital transformation in your company? Was it the CIO? No. The CEO? No, it was COVID. And it's COVID that allows, it's a great accelerator and a force multiplier all in one. And because of that, companies are more open and more willing to learn. You'll see more technology committees being formed on boards for those that really want to do a deeper dive and help the CIO and the CISO figure things out. But digital is really taking a front and center. One of my boards is having a digital class in a couple of weeks, where all the board's going to come together, and we've got a senior executive from another company who's going to spend about an hour and a half just talking about digital. And it's going to take all kind of forms, but as long as the company says my mindset is going to be, I want to have a digital mindset, I want to get an agile business model, I think they'll get there. They just have to have that open mindset to do that.
Sure. That's great. That's sage advice. And congratulations on bringing the digital IQ levels higher on boards. It's true. We need it. I want to go back to a previous statement you made, and you made it very casually, but it caught my attention in terms of, you made a distinction between mentors and sponsors, or at least you mentioned both. Yes. And we had Whitney Johnson, who's a Thinkers 50 Top 10, one of the top renowned management gurus in the world, author of Disrupt Yourself and How to Build an A-Team. And when she was on our show, she made a strong suggestion that in terms of your career trajectory, sponsors are even more important than mentors, because they put their political and social capital on the line. Typically, they're higher in the proverbial organizational ladder. So they're really picking you up and lifting you up towards hopefully cultivating a culture that celebrates diversity and inclusion. Can you talk about and give advice to business leaders, the importance of being a sponsor?
Yeah, well, if you go back to my example about the high school experience, I had this man speak into my life. And so that's really what mentors and sponsors do, either through their words or through their actions. They speak into your life. And I really start with role models. I look at Harriet Tubman as my role model. I look at Elon Musk as my role model because of their bravery, their courage, that they were willing to take risks. They were innovative in how they solved problems, or are and did. Elon is still around, and Harriet's not. But, so role models is where you start for me, and I think companies have them. And then you go into the mentorship, and the mentor is the one that says, shine the light on that pothole. So don't step there. This is what time the 8 o'clock meeting really starts. This is how you're being perceived. So they're kind of coaching you and shining the light. And then that sponsorship, though, for people of color, women and people of color especially live through this imposter syndrome. Oh, I'm a woman, even though I went to MIT, I really must not belong here because no one's asking me anything. No one's helping me with anything. And so you believe that you're an imposter, or as an African-American, oh, well, I'm Black and they didn't have to hire me, so I guess I should just be quiet and be grateful. And so sponsors need to recognize that there's intellectual capital, there's creative capital that is sitting at their tables. And so just having diversity alone is great, but it's necessary, but not sufficient. It's the inclusion, and say, I want to develop this creative capital. I want to develop this intellectual capital, because I know that if I don't, our solutions that we create will be just a couple eggs short of a dozen, right? We won't have a full holistic solution that can solve the world's problem. So I think companies need to recognize and see beyond, again, exterior, and don't have these assumptions about where people are or where they've come from. Take a minute to ask questions about what the person's aspirations are and their backgrounds and things like that. And you'll be surprised how they will be really eager to take on a sponsor who can help guide them and show them the way and shine the light on them. Well, who speaks for you when you're not in the room and when you're not on Zoom? Your sponsor does. And if you're not known by anybody, you will never get selected for that new opportunity in Italy or whatever it happens to be. So very important. Great question.
Definitely great answer. Great answer.
That actually is a great point here, because in the age of where we are right now, where you don't get to build those informal relationships, right? You can't catch up with people outside the boardroom or in the hallways or just on the way to the airport, or have those kind of social things. What are people doing, and how do we take something like this crisis and turn it into a catalyst, and how do we take advantage of the opportunities to connect and meet people at the human level?
Yeah, I think about crisis, it's like when your family member has a heart attack because they weren't eating right, or your wife is going to leave you because you've been neglected, or sometimes this crisis that you're in, whether it's personal or professional, it serves as something that says, I'm either going to hold my head in my hands, or I'm going to put my head in the sand, or I'm going to pretend that it's all going to be okay. We have to develop that muscle to say that when something happens, I'm going to use that opportunity to reimagine what's possible. You think of the Starbucks crisis. The CEO kind of helped make that better with the racial issue with those two guys that were in their restaurant or in their store. United Airlines crisis. There's so many crises. So whether it's a pandemic that everybody suffers through, or an individual company or person, we're always going to have them. So we got to develop that muscle. And I think it's an accelerator. So I think the first thing that if somebody has to do to use it is to make sure that we reflect on old paradigms, reflect on things that, may have gotten us here, but may not take us further, and see a new reality and as information, as a gift, so that we can reimagine a true north. Like, where do we think we need to go? Is what we used to know, is that still valid? Or is what we didn't know more important? And start to embrace ignorance. Be okay not being the smartest person in the room. Be okay not understanding enough, because it's in that curiosity that you will learn how to define what your true north is. And then you set your sights on that. And then once you set your true north, then you kind of get your organization to start saying, well, how are we going to design and look at things? Companies have been forever changed by the Black Lives Matter, and they are starting to they're asking, Black board members like me, or their Black team members in their companies, how should we be looking at our policies different? How should we be looking at our procurement? Are we procuring with the right people? Should we be philanthropically giving to different organizations? Is our pipeline appropriate? Do we have enough people of color and women and other people in the pipeline to be CEO? Because if you don't have CEOs, then how will they become board members or other leaders? So I think if you reflect on old paradigms, reimagine a new perspective, a new possibilities, and then begin to design a new approach that reshapes the conversation a little differently, I think it'll make a big difference. What Chase Bank is doing is nothing short of remarkable. $30 billion over 5 years are going to be giving to try to close the wealth gap. That's an example of reflecting on the current events and then reimagining a new use of capital to be able to do something that is for the greater good.
That's great. Again, great, Sage. You're dropping so much nuggets of wisdom on us. That's amazing. Absolute grand slam for sure. So my last question to you, as a hiring manager, I always placed, strong emphasis on a person's rate of learning and good judgment, which spoke to their trustworthiness and their integrity and character and competence. You manage multi-billion-dollar lines of business. You're a senior executive of some of the biggest companies in the world. Give us advice. When you were recruiting talent, what were some of the skills that you looked for in order to strengthen your team, and perhaps even succession plan and give yourself an opportunity to be a sponsor to this new talent you were inviting to your team?
Well, I would say I believe that turkeys hire turkeys and tigers hire tigers. And you won't see a turkey hiring a tiger, because that tiger will probably, eat up the turkey, right? And so you need to hire people who are smarter than yourself. I think it was Colin Powell. Somebody said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And so what you want to hire is have people that can extend your own impact. You by myself, I only know this much, but together with an amazing team, we know everything, right? So I think it's making sure that you hire tigers, and those tigers are just ready to have certain characteristics about them. One is that they're curious. There's the book I read called The Head, Heart, and Guts. That kind of makes up the three. You want people who are smart, who are strategic, who can set goals and look through business plans and just be really super smart. You also want people that have the heart and the empathy, that understands and cares about their fellow person. They're empathetic. They have good emotional intelligence, and they really are there as a servant leader, and not just as a leader. And then you want the people that have the guts. They challenge the status quo. They don't ask why, they ask why not, or they ask how, as opposed to, this is impossible. They believe that impossible is just an opinion, it's not a fact. So I think those are the kinds of things. And of course, integrity kind of goes with heart, and having, people who want to be curious and want to grow and continue to go up that ladder of, even though I did this, I know I can do more. And I know that if I do more, my company will win in the marketplace. So those are the things I would look for in a person.
Awesome.
This is awesome.
Thank you
so much for all this awesome insight. We're here with Daphne Jones. You can check her out at DAPHEEJONES on Twitter. And more importantly, catch her with the Digital Directors Network. And please say hi to Bob Zukas for me. It's a wonderful organization trying to expand tech inside the boardrooms. And more importantly, you're trying to expand diversity inclusion inside boardrooms at the same time. You're on a dual mission.
I am starting a course that we hope to launch in January for technologists, for women, and for people of color. We're starting off there for those who have typically been underlooked or overlooked or undervalued, like I was with my high school counselor. We're going to try to give an advantage to those.
Counselor, we've got to go back and find where that person is.
Probably dead.
Thanks for building the pipe.
Thank you, Daphne.
One of the most important things you can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
be well.
So much. Thank you so much.
Happy Friday. Oh my God, we have flown through an hour. How did that happen?
Three extraordinary business leaders and just good people, putting, as Jobs said, a dent in the universe. So we're so lucky, Ray. I don't know, how much we express our gratitude every week on this show, but I'm reminded today that we're exposed and we have the opportunity to learn from some really extraordinary people. And this is why Friday is our favorite time of the week, especially this hour. And so speaking of this hour next week, and again, the theme of the best and brightest CEOs come on DisrupTV. Next week, we have three CEOs. We have Faizi Fatahi, CEO of Current Technologies. He's a legend in Silicon Valley for decades of advancing, society with technology. Martin DeBeer, founder, CEO of BrightPlan. And Robert Rosenberg, who's the former CEO of Dunkin' Donuts, one of my favorite brands that I visit daily, and author. So I'll definitely have my Dunkin' Donuts cup next week when Robert's here. So three extraordinary CEOs. We had two extraordinary CEOs and a CEO coach on this week's show. Ray, closing remarks on episode, by the way, 209, and we just crossed 640 interviews in the last 4 years, my friends. 640 interviews.
640 interviews, awesome guests all across the board. We have to thank our sponsor, Robots and Pencils, really for helping us build out and expand our show. But more importantly, I think what we are seeing is, people are starting to understand that it's time to go back to hope. What kind of hope? How do we actually get to the future? How do we make a better world? In some cases, we're going to augment that world. In some cases, we're going to actually do it through brute force, right? Just sheer willpower, of the humankind. So I think this is what's happening. And, we're going to hear more of these stories as we get into our conference. And for those watching, we're actually going to throw the ultimate conference. We're attempting to throw a very, very intimate event of 300 executives. It's all going to happen October 27th to 28th. And it's the 10th annual Constellation Connected Enterprise What about you, Val? What's going on? What else?
There's a lot of buzz about your conference. My Twitter feed is full of folks looking forward to your conference. It's your 10th annual event. Of course, the last 9 at Half Moon Bay in person, where magic happens with these random collisions that you create an environment for. And the effort that your team is putting together to create an extraordinary digital event. I have people inviting me to your platform so we can become more familiar with it before the event 2 weeks from now. And so congratulations to you, my friend. You're creating a buzz. There's a buzz about CCE 2020. So I'm looking forward to participating and learning. And it's one of my favorite events of the year. So thank you for all the hard work. I know it's extraordinary hard work to put this event together.
Hey, thanks a lot. We'll see everyone there. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you, everyone, for being on the show and being a listener. Thank you.